What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Good to see you again. So, this image right over my shoulder here, I posted on Facebook in quite a lot of different groups this past week, and I had some questions about it. Mostly questions for how did I edit this image, because this image that you see right over my shoulder is not the finished image. But with the finished image, we're going to take a look at that, and then I'm going to show you how I edited this video. So let's take a look at the finished image. Alright, so as you can see, this is the original image right here. You have the moon completely blown out. This is a film image. I shot this on film. I was using Portra 400 in this camera right here, the Elan 7. Now, let's zoom in and see what we've got. So what I'm going to do is just to show a little something. I'm using a brightness layer here. If you know how to use Photoshop, I apologize, this may be a little bit simple, but I'm going to go through this step by step as if somebody has never used Photoshop. So this is a brightness and contrast adjustment. I'm going to invert it. That's Command I or Control I, depending on what you're doing. And I want to take the brightness all the way down. Okay, and we're going to come in here. You're going to go to your paintbrush over here, and I'm just going to do this. And you see all the stuff around the moon is coming out. But now let's go across the moon. You can not even see that I've done anything. So let's, oops, that was Command I. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do Command Z. Okay, so we're going to get rid of that brightness layer. So here's the thing. Even with film, there's only so much you can do. Yes, film responds better to being blown out, overexposed, and you can recover some highlights better from film than you can from a digital camera. But not when it's this much overexposed. This image right here, the base image, is about it's either 4 or 8 seconds of exposure. I can't remember which. And the regular exposure for the moon would have been 1/400th of a second using 400 speed film. So yeah, this is overexposed. At least 10 stops. I can figure that out. Let me do that. I've got my trusty phone right here. It's like I can figure these things out. Bear with me here. Long exposure calculator. That's the one I was looking for. So 1/400th of a second. 10 stops. So yes, at 4 seconds from 1/400th of a second, which would be normal, this is overexposed by nearly 11 stops. Even with film, you're not going to recover that. So, given that you can't recover those details, what's left? Well, you have to composite something, and that's what I have right here. Okay, that's an image of the moon. Okay. Let's see. Let's bring that down there. Turn that off, and I want to use the paintbrush. Yes, I want to do that. Okay, I don't need that big of a healing brush. But that looks good. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do just a few of these little spots, just to make sure that they don't mess up. Now this is not this is not necessarily a flaw in the scanner. I mean, I know my scanner's not perfect, but much of what you see here is actually just the scanner trying too hard to find detail where there just isn't any. There's no detail here. You can't actually make out the outlines of the building right here, right here. You can see the logo of the building. But anyway, okay, there's the moon. So we're going to turn this layer back on. I actually want the moon above it, so we're going to turn that off for just a moment, because I want to put something else in here. I want to put a solid color layer in here, and I want it to be black, all the way black, and you'll see what I'm doing here in just a minute. I want that as the base layer. Actually, let's go with something a little weird for a second here. Again, bear with me, you'll see where I'm going here. And we're going to go back to the paintbrush. I'm going to go up to about 500. Nice big, maybe even 600. It's like working with Bob Ross and his happy accidents. Okay, so what I want to do is I also want a layer mask. I don't want to invert it just yet. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay, now, you see that I'm coming across here, and that red that was in the background is coming out. Now that's not actually going to stay red, but what I'm doing, suppose this could be called a type of sky replacement. Let's go down to about 200 on that now. Suppose this could be, I don't want to do that. I suppose this could be a type of sky replacement, as I was saying. It's just the sky is all black. Okay, now let's be nice and careful around these buildings. Actually, so you can see that about right there, the building ends. Across here. You don't actually want to delete those red lights right there. Those are part of the building. Coming up and over. And then right here, I'll come back and clean that up in a minute. Come down here a little bit. The original one I didn't do exactly like this, but I think I like this way a little bit better. Come down, across the top just a little bit, and then down. Okay, now, I said I need to do one other thing. I need to zoom in very close here. Okay, and we're going to take this down to about 40 pixels. Okay, we're going to come in really close, really careful here. You don't want to get into the buildings. Okay, I think that'll be sufficient. Let's change this all the way black. Let's zoom in. Okay, we've got a little bit here we need to clean up that we can see. And again, a lot of this is just, it's just straight light, just noise, because the sky itself it had no color. It was completely black. So, okay. Okay, so that'll work. Now, but what to do with this? Still there. Okay. Down here. And I'm going to create a new layer. And then I need to color this layer basically. So Shift, Delete, this comes up, and I want to keep it black. Okay, 100%, and then there we go. Okay, now Command T lets you move this around however you need, and you can just drag it wherever it needs to go. Okay, technical difficulties. Where were we? So I have this new layer, and I have it right here. So if you go to the moon, obviously this is not working. So you need to right click, create a clipping mask. Now with that, you can see that the only thing on there is just whatever's in this little box. So Command T, because we want to transform this, and so then we can move it. Ah, now you see the moon. But it's a bit large. So I want to keep the aspect ratio the same, because I need the moon to stay the same size. So you go back up here, and that ties this stuff together. And now let's adjust the size. Okay, so I have a little bit of room to work with here. Let's put it about right there. That's about right where it was. Still needs to be just a touch smaller. And about right there. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Might still be a little bit big. Let's make it a little smaller. Okay. And there we go. So that's the moon. That's got the moon in there. Nice. Looks sharp. Looks nice. Okay. A couple other things just to make it work well. Alright. Let's go to brightness. And I'm going to turn this all the way up because again, I want to see where I am. Go big again. Then I'm going to come right across here. Actually, I need to switch that. We're going to switch that. Alright, now it's white. Okay. Now you come across here and it blows everything out. Okay. Alright, now, but that's not actually what I want. I want it right here. I actually want it not as bright. Minus 35, do we think minus 35 is a good number? I think minus 35 is a good number. Okay, now a couple other things. I want to do another brightness layer, and again, invert, because now I want to, and again, we're going to go with this one, maybe a little bit smaller with this one. Maybe, let's go with 100, and then we'll just have to do a couple passes. Okay, all the way up. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I've got it. Go up, clear it out, come back down. Okay. Then we can go all the way down. Now you obviously that's got all the greens and everything in it. But about all the way to there. Now, let's see, how far? So I'm going to go another minus 50 with this one. And then I'm going to come here to the actual mask, and I'm going to add a 50 pixel feather. And what the feather does, if you're not used to the masks, is it just blends. It's not a sharp edge between different exposures. It blends it across the whole thing here. And I may even do that with this one, but I don't want it quite as far. So let's just go with 25 on that one. And then for this, I want one other thing. I want to go to hue saturation. I actually want that all the way at the top. And I want this same layer. So you hit Option, and then you just drag it up there. Because I don't want it so blown out right here. It's the wrong color. I want it to sort of match the moon. So, let's take it and go in here. And you can go all the way down there and make it blue. You can go up there and make it blue again. You can go greens, aquas, whatever in the middle. But I don't want to do that. Now, you see actually right here, you're in the 60s, and you can see the different things in there. So you don't want to go with that. So let's see, what do we have? 10. Is 10 a little darker? About 15. And a little bit extra on the saturation, maybe a plus 15 on the saturation. Well, let's come in here and go to the yellows. See what we can do to change up the yellows. Shouldn't take much here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to leave the yellows at 0. So I like how this turned out. And pretty much that is the end of the edit. The only other thing I would do is come over here and crop. I don't want to say I always crop, because that sounds bad. I know some people say like they never crop and all that sort of thing. I only crop to get things to a certain aspect ratio depending on where it needs to go. For Instagram, I always crop it at 4:5 because that's pretty much the best aspect ratio for Instagram. It'll show in if you go portrait like this, or I'm sorry, landscape like I'm doing here, it'll show up fine. And if you go in portrait, you'll actually see the entire 4:5 image. If you go more than 4:5, it doesn't do it. It kind of squeezes it in like an old letterbox movie, like you used to see on your TV when they tried to get the full movie theater picture in without cropping it to your TV screen. So 4:5 is normal, but I'm actually going to crop this to 16:9 because that works a little better. I want all of that, and I want all of the city. And so now, what I don't want is I don't want this part that's over here on the edge. And now that I think about it, I'm actually just going to bring it back just to the edge of the icon building. And annoyingly, that has messed with where my moon is as far as the rule of 16 line. But I will leave it like that. Okay. And just since I'm already here, let's go all the way back over to the edge. Okay. And that is a crop. Now, one thing that you can do, I know I'm going to completely save this as something different. So I have right here, delete cropped pixels selected. If you're editing a raw file or something out of the camera and you're going to save it differently, I would uncheck that so that it keeps those pixels, it just doesn't display them, and then you can just go back and undo the crop. But with this, pretty much I'm out of luck. Now, so this is pretty much the final image, but what you can do if you wanted to make something that didn't look quite as real and you didn't have so much down here on the water, what you could do, you go in here, so I'm going to move this over like this, and I'm going to make it as big. I think that's about as big as I can get it. And then come back here, and I'm going to move this around. And now, let's see. Let's see how big I can make it. Still there. And now obviously it's getting pixelated. Okay, so I'm at the edge, so I need to come in a little bit. And just a little bit more, and then you can actually bring it down just like so below the horizon. Interrupted again. I really like doing videos on one take so you don't have the weird breaks in the action where my head moves and all that. I really don't like doing that. But anyway, apparently my camera cuts off at like 11 minutes and 50 some seconds. But anyway, as I was saying, so you have the new layer, and I went with the solid black and then adjusted that to where I needed it. I put the image of the moon on top of that, and that's what gave the moon where I wanted it to be, and created a clipping mask. And then I brought in the brightness layer right here and used that to soften out some of the lights on the harbor down here. And then I took this stretch of light, the one right where the moon came down, I took that stretch of light down even further, and then I changed the hue to make it match the moon a little bit more than I did before. So yeah, that's how I would edit this sort of an image. It is a composite image, but it's not like a sky replacement. I mean, that's a funny thing to say because I did actually do a sky replacement, but I just used solid black because that's the color of the black. I just wanted it to be actually a solid black rather than pixelated and grainy, which is not what I saw. I saw a solid black. And then the moon. And in this case, basically I'm replacing the moon to also match what my eyes saw, because my eyes didn't see a blown out moon. My eyes could make out every single detail of the moon. It's just, you know, cameras, no matter how good of a camera you have, cannot match what your eyes can do. Cameras just do not have the dynamic range that your eyes have for making out details. So that's why I chose to change up the moon and went with it like I did. And so yeah, that's it. I'll change this back to what it was. I appreciate everybody out there watching. Really like it when you watch these things, and I'll see you again on the next one.